I used to think I could endure it one more time, that if I stayed silent and smiled, everything would pass just like all the other times. But when I saw the name tag on the banquet table that day, my hands trembled. Not from shock, but from the rage burning through every vein in my body. They didn't just call me a housekeeper. They had the nerve to pin it on my chest in front of over 200 guests. And the worst part? My husband Noah was standing not far away and didn't even turn his head. My name is Zoe, 36 years old, head nurse at a suburban hospital in California. And on the night I was supposed to be just a guest at my sister-in-law's wedding, I became the entertainment for my in-laws. The moment I stepped into the Fairmont Rose Hill Ballroom, a place known for its sky-high crystal ceilings and velvet-covered chairs, I had a feeling something was off. Maybe it was the sideways glances from a few guests as I walked past. Maybe it was the way my mother-in-law, Margaret, looked me up and down like I was a stain on her daughter's lavish wedding dress. But when a receptionist politely handed me a tiny name tag, I knew. My gut feeling wasn't wrong. There must be some mistake, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm Zoe Evans, Noah Evans' wife. The receptionist looked back at the list in her hand, clearly confused. Yes, ma'am, this is your name tag. You're on the bride's guest list. I looked down at the bold black letters printed on a cold white background. Zoe, housekeeper. A chill ran down my spine. It was like someone had slapped me across the face, then walked away smirking. What's wrong, Zoe? A syrupy voice laced with mockery came from behind me. I turned around and saw my sister-in-law, Olivia, standing there in her expensive wedding dress, clinging to her fiancé like she'd just stepped off a magazine cover. She smirked, lightly tapping the name tag in my hand. Oh, don't be so tense. I just thought it suited you better. You're used to cleaning and helping out, aren't you? I froze. With a smug laugh, Olivia turned and walked away, leaving behind a trail of sharp perfume and the soft giggles of her group of bridesmaids. I looked around. No one reacted. No sympathetic glances, no words of defense. Just averted eyes, a few indifferent shrugs, and the soft hum of music playing a symphony as cold as my heart felt in that moment. I made my way to my assigned table, table 14, tucked in the farthest corner near the service area, close to the kitchen. There were 7 names on the table, 6 plates. My name came with an empty seat, no plate, no wine glass. A forgotten guest, or more accurately, someone purposely excluded from the feast. I swallowed the lump rising in my throat. I didn't cry. I'd spent enough years with this family to know that tears only made them feel more victorious. My mother-in-law, Margaret, was a master at hurting people without leaving a visible scar. She was graceful, refined, and cruel, a predator dressed in elegance. Since the day I joined the Evans family, Margaret had never seen me as one of them. She never said it outright. She did something better, backhanded compliments, well-meaning criticisms, and dinner parties where I was accidentally left off the guest list. And Olivia? She never hid her hatred. To her, I was leeching off her brother, a successful lawyer, the golden boy, someone she believed should marry a rich, beautiful businesswoman with class, not a head nurse from the suburbs, someone who knew more about blood than perfume. I searched for Noah. He was standing across the ballroom, holding a wine glass, laughing with a man I guessed was the groom's father. He didn't look at me. Not once. I wondered, did he know what was happening? Did he see the name tag in my hand, or did he already know and choose to look away? A hollow feeling spread through my chest. Never had it been so clear. I was just an out-of-place accessory in the perfect portrait they had painted for Olivia. The golden princess of the family. And I, the wife of Noah, was merely the sacrificial pawn, a housekeeper allowed to sit at the table but not eat. I picked up the name tag, my fingernail pressing into the edge of the hard plastic. People around me kept toasting, laughing, living in their own little world. They didn't see, they didn't care. But they were about to. I curled my lips into a slight smile. If they thought this was the height of humiliation for me, then they were about to learn a new definition of collapse. I once thought I could adapt, that if I was patient enough, if I stayed quiet, If I tried to fit in, they would eventually accept me. But after 3 years as an Evans daughter-in-law, I realized I was never part of the family. I never had been, and I never would be. From the very first time I met Margaret, my mother-in-law, she looked at me like she was inspecting an old item in a high-end boutique. Ooh, you're a nurse? That's a noble job, though a bit tough. Noah always had such peculiar taste, she said as she poured tea, not looking at me, her eyes glinting with contempt. I smiled, telling myself maybe she was just testing me. I was wrong. She wasn't testing me. She was warning me. Olivia was different. She wasn't fake. She openly hated me. You know, Noah dated a model before he married you. You're just so practical, Olivia said at a family dinner, her voice sweet as honey, but her eyes dripping with disdain. She didn't try to hide it. She even seemed to enjoy flaunting her disgust like it was a game. And Noah? He heard it all, but he just gave a weak laugh, as if it were just petty woman drama. I endured it for 3 years. 3 years of being seen as the shadow beside my husband, the nurse girl who didn't know how to pick wine, the one invited to parties out of politeness. But I wasn't a fool. I knew when someone's been pushed too far, there comes a point where they can't step back anymore. 6 months ago, I decided to stop staying silent. The plan began on a Wednesday night when I happened to check the joint bank account Noah and I shared. Something I rarely did because I trusted him. But that night, a $10,000 withdrawal showed up, sent to an event planning company called Rose and Elm. I frowned. I'd never heard of them. And I definitely didn't make that transaction. I asked Noah. He looked awkward. Oh, probably Mom needed an advance for Olivia's wedding. You know how she loves everything extravagant. I nodded. But something inside me sparked. His mom had her own cards. Margaret had never used anyone else's money. At least she always made it look that way. This time she used Noah's name. I started digging, and what I found went far beyond anything I imagined. A month later, I hired a private financial investigator named Reed. He used to work in banking, now he freelances. I asked him to look through the transactions, check the loans under Noah's name. The result? Nearly $65,000 had been withdrawn from Noah's account over the past 18 months. It wasn't just wedding expenses. Margaret had secretly used her son's name to take out loans, finance a new BMW, and put a deposit down on a luxury condo in Seattle, all under Noah's name. He had no idea. I kept everything: bank statements, credit contracts, confirmation emails, ISIS therapy bills. I didn't say a word. I still smiled when I saw Margaret, still shook Olivia's hand whenever I came over. But inside, the pieces were coming together, like a puzzle for a takedown. And Olivia, that princess, wasn't as clean as she looked either. I found out she was seeing another man, not because she slipped, but because of a careless, arrogant mistake. One afternoon, Noah left his phone on the couch while he went to shower. A message popped up from Olivia. Tell Michael I was at your place last night. Don't let him get suspicious. I stared at the message. My heart stopped for a few seconds. Then, on reflex, I opened the thread. It wasn't the first time. Olivia had asked Noah to cover for her a few times before. But this time I looked deeper. And I found hotel receipt photos. Olivia hadn't even deleted them. She left everything sitting in her phone's trash folder like no one would dare look. I started tracing the trail. I searched her Instagram location history, tagged photos, Venmo transactions, and then the name Ryan Carter popped up, a personal trainer in Santa Monica, 5 years younger than Olivia, known for posting muscle shots and quotes about passion and freedom. They'd been spotted together at least 3 times, once at a yoga studio, once at the Grand Palms Hotel, and once at a bar in Venice Beach, a place Olivia swore she'd never step foot in. I didn't confront. I didn't expose. I collected texts, photos, receipts, location tags, even a short video clip from Ryan's Instagram story. where Olivia didn't realize she was in the frame. I printed everything, filed it neatly into a folder, put it in a plain black binder, labeled the recipient Tyler Simmons, the groom's mother known for being strict and unforgiving of lies. I met her a week before the wedding at a small cafe near the beach. She sat across from me, polite but distant. I slid the folder across the table. "You should know who Olivia really is," I said. When she opened the folder, the indifference in her eyes vanished. I didn't need to say more. Every page turned was a crack in the trust they had in Olivia. And when she reached the financial section with proof Margaret was using her son's name for debt, her face went ice cold. "What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice sharp as a knife. I smiled. "I don't want anything, just keep an eye on the ceremony, and be ready." I stood up and walked out, leaving the storm behind me. I didn't need to scream to be heard. I didn't need to beg to be seen. I just needed one moment, and that moment I had already set in motion. The entire week before the wedding, I stayed silent. On the outside, I was still the humble, polite, well-mannered sister-in-law. I still went to Olivia's dress fitting, sat quietly on the edge of the sofa, watching her twirl in front of the mirror. I still answered Margaret's calls, listening to her ramble about tablecloth colors, lighting setups, and imported Italian wine. I smiled, nodded, as if I didn't know what I knew. But inside, every move had already been planned. And the most important move, I knew, wasn't direct confrontation. It was letting the right person see the truth at the right time. The groom's mother, Mrs. Tyler Simmons, was that person. A widow since her 40s, she built a real estate empire in San Diego from scratch, known for being direct, tough, and absolutely unforgiving when it comes to deceit. Though her relationship with Olivia was fairly neutral, I knew she was sharp enough to see through it, and powerful enough to end it. I arranged to meet her on a Monday morning at a quiet French cafe on the third floor of the hotel where the wedding would take place. A quiet place where no one would notice us. I arrived 10 minutes early, chose a secluded corner, ordered an espresso, and placed the black leather folder on the table in front of me. She arrived on time, not early, not late. Wearing a charcoal gray blazer, her hair neatly tied up, a small black designer bag in hand. Her eyes, when they met mine, were guarded. "Miss Zoe," she nodded. "Olivia's mentioned you. Is this something urgent?" I nodded, sliding the folder toward her. "Yes, very urgent." She glanced at the folder, hesitated for a few seconds before opening it. I said nothing. I let the photos, texts, receipts, and bank statements speak for me. The first page was a photo of Olivia kissing Ryan outside the Grand Palms Hotel. Next, them leaving the gym, hand in hand. Then, a text from Olivia to Noah, asking him to cover for a missing evening. I'd marked the date, time, location, and corresponding proof. Mrs. Tyler flipped through each page with icy calm. No questions, no wasted motions. Only her eyes, darkening with each turn. Until she reached part 2, the bank statements in Noah's name, used for personal loans. The BMW, the luxury condo, the wedding event packages. All processed under Noah's name, with forged signatures in some cases. And all of it traced back to Margaret Evans. Mrs. Tyler gripped the folder tightly. "How did you get all this?" she asked, her voice low, nearly metallic. "I hired an investigator," I replied, unapologetically. "I had no other choice." She looked at me, long, deep, then gave a slight nod. "What do you want me to do?" "Nothing," I smiled. "I just want you to pay attention at the ceremony, and, if possible, make sure the truth doesn't get buried." She closed the folder, placing her hand on it like it was a case waiting for judgment. Then she lifted her coffee cup, took a small sip, and exhaled slowly. "You're brave," she said, "but I have to ask, are you doing this to get revenge on Olivia or Margaret?" I shook my head. "I'm doing it to reclaim myself. They think I only know how to bow and endure. They're wrong." She didn't say anything else, just gave a slight nod, then stood up. Before leaving, she looked back at me one last time. I'll keep my eyes open. You should brace yourself when the curtain falls. No one will be left standing still. The wedding took place on a bright, sunny Saturday afternoon at the Fairmont Hotel. The venue Olivia had always dreamed of for her big day. Everything was perfectly arranged, from the white flower-lined aisle to the soft violins playing in the grand hall. I arrived on time, wearing a simple sapphire moon dress. On my chest was still the housekeeper name tag Olivia had deliberately assigned to me, but this time I didn't take it off. I left it there, like a flag, for them to see I wasn't afraid anymore. Margaret still radiated like a queen. Olivia walked in like the star of a meticulously staged play. Noah circled the room, greeting guests as if everything was perfectly fine. But I knew the makeup was starting to crack. A few minutes before the main ceremony, I stepped outside to make a phone call. "Send it," I said briefly. Right on schedule, the delivery man brought a black envelope to Michael's, the groom's, hotel room with a note, "Open before the vows." Inside were the photos, messages, transaction confirmations, everything about Olivia and Ryan. I returned to my seat at the reception, calmly poured myself a glass of wine. No one in the room noticed what was about to happen. Except Mrs. Tyler. She looked at me, eyes steady. She gave a small nod, and I knew the game had begun. I smiled slightly, whispering to myself, "It's time, little princess. This show doesn't end the way you think." I sat still at table 14, champagne in hand, my eyes scanning the hall as if I were just enjoying my sister-in-law's extravagant wedding. On my chest, the name tag Zoe, housekeeper, still shimmered under the chandelier, like a scar deliberately carved deeper. But I didn't hide it. I left it there, intentionally, like a blade turned back on the one who handed it to me. I caught Olivia's eye from the stage. She was smiling, that familiar, arrogant smile, like she had pushed me into the mud without even dirtying her hands. Margaret, my mother-in-law, was raising her glass of red wine, lips curved just enough to seem refined. They thought they had won. They didn't know that in just a few minutes, everything would crumble beneath their feet. I heard the first whispers from near the entrance of the ballroom, at first very quiet. A murmur, a glance, then, like cracks spreading across ice, it rippled through the room. "Do you hear?" The black envelope, sent to Michael right before the vows. There are photos, messages. The bride's been cheating. I gently lifted my glass, took a small sip. The wine slid smoothly down my throat, but inside me the storm had begun to roar, not out of fear, but because I knew the moment had come. From the stage, Michael, the groom suddenly fell silent, holding a black envelope with a slightly crumpled corner as if it had been hastily opened. Olivia turned toward him, her eyes scanning his face anxiously, still trying to keep her smile. Michael didn't smile back. He pulled out a stack of papers, color photos, texts, receipts, each piece of evidence slapping him across the face, and now, the entire room. Michael's expression shifted from confusion to frozen shock, then slowly into a chilling coldness. Olivia knew. I saw the exact moment her face stiffened, like a statue splitting in half from the first blow. She stumbled off the stage, rushing toward Michael. "Michael, I can explain. It's a misunderstanding. Someone's trying to set me up." Michael raised his hand to stop her. "Set you up?" His voice was calm, but loud enough for everyone to hear. "Then, what about the times you told Ryan he was so much better than your fiancé? Or the message you sent Noah asking him to cover for you because Michael's starting to get suspicious?" Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone dropped a glass. Olivia was speechless. I looked over at Margaret. For the first time that evening, she lost her composure. Her face tightened, eyes scanning the room for an escape, but there was none left. And then, like the final blow, Mrs. Tyler Simmons, the groom's mother, stood up from her chair. The sound of her chair scraping against the floor was sharp and eerie. "Before this ceremony continues," she said, her voice low and surgical, "there's something that needs to be addressed." I held my breath. The entire room turned toward her. Olivia grabbed Michael's hand, as if trying to hold on to something slipping away. Mrs. Tyler walked slowly to the stage, carrying the folder, the very one I handed her that Monday morning. My future daughter-in-law, Olivia Evans, has lied, betrayed, and deceived my son, she said, each word clear and precise. She's been involved with another man throughout her engagement to Michael, and she used Noah Evans, her brother, as a shield to hide her actions. Margaret shot up from her seat. You have no right to pull this stunt in the middle of my daughter's wedding. Mrs. Tyler turned back, her gaze icy. I have every right to speak the truth, especially when you and your daughter dragged my entire family into this farce. Then she turned to Michael. Son, do the right thing. Michael nodded. He looked at Olivia without a hint of softness. We're done. Michael, you can't do this, Olivia practically screamed, her voice shaking. We planned everything. I love you. You only love yourself, Olivia. He turned his back and walked off the stage. No one stopped him. The whispers turned into a storm of chatter. Some guests pulled out their phones to record. Olivia looked like she was suffocating under the very wall of expectations and pretenses she had built. And just when I thought it had reached its peak, the final blow landed. A man in a black suit, a hotel name badge pinned to his chest, rushed into the ballroom and approached Margaret. Mrs. Evans, he said quietly but clearly, we need you to settle the outstanding balance for the wedding. Your card has been declined 3 times. The hotel requires payment by 6 p.m. today, or we'll have to ask the guests to leave. The entire ballroom fell silent. Margaret's face turned red, then pale. What the hell are you talking about? I'm Margaret Evans. I would never... The payment was declined, the man repeated, and most of the invoice is under the name Noah Evans. I stood up from my chair and walked toward them. I'll cover the staff's portion, I said, my voice gentle but firm. They don't deserve to suffer because of this family's lies. As for the rest, I glanced at Margaret. That's not my problem. Margaret looked at me like she wanted to rip me apart. It was you who did this. I smiled. No, Margaret, you did this. I simply pulled back the curtain. Olivia screamed in desperation. Margaret stood frozen. Michael walked away. Mrs. Tyler turned her back. And me? I returned to my table, picked up my champagne glass, and walked out of the ballroom, step by step, calm, steady, free. My shadow stretched across the marble floor like a streak of light finally breaking free from a gilded cage. Behind me, the sound of collapse still echoed. But I didn't look back, because I had taken myself back. I walked out of the Fairmont Hotel ballroom, leaving behind whispers, bewildered stares, and the Evans family's rising fury. Each step I took on the cold marble floor rang out like a funeral drum, bidding farewell to a dying. I didn't need to look back. I didn't need to see Margaret arguing with the hotel manager or Olivia crying beneath glittering lights that now only shined on humiliation. I was used to standing alone. But this time, I wasn't walking away because I was pushed out. I was walking away from wreckage I no longer wanted to save. I was waiting for the elevator when I heard a voice behind me. Zoe, wait. I didn't turn around. That voice? I knew it like my own breath. Noah. His footsteps grew quicker, heavier. As I stepped into the elevator, his hand caught the door. I looked at him. His hair a mess, tie loose, face pale and shaken. He no longer looked like the calm, confident man I once loved. Standing in front of me was someone who had just realized the world he believed in was nothing but a thin coat of paint, just stripped away. You knew everything, didn't you? Noah panted, his voice unsteady. I didn't answer. I crossed my arms and stared at him. That look was answer enough. He nodded slowly, like he was trying to swallow a truth that refused to go down. Then why? Why didn't you tell me? Did you ever actually listen? I said it softly, but each word hit like a stone to his chest. The question he just asked, I had asked myself hundreds of times over the past 3 years. Why did I stay? Why did I keep hoping? Noah looked at me, eyes red. You have to understand, my mom, she didn't mean any harm. No harm? I laughed quietly, not bothering to hide my contempt. She used your name to borrow tens of thousands of dollars. She took your money to buy herself a home. She threw a lavish wedding for a daughter no one dared to be honest with. Do you know how long it took me to dig through every bank statement, every transaction, every forged contract signed in your name? And all that time, you thought I was just jealous. Petty, didn't you? Noah lowered his head. He couldn't deny it. I continued. How many times did I try to tell you? When Margaret mocked me at every family dinner, when Olivia called me a clingy shadow, when I was excluded from important occasions. I waited for you to speak up. But what did you do? You told me, don't take it personally, Mom's just a little strict. Olivia jokes like that. You chose to believe them, chose to take their side, chose your comfort over the painful truth I tried to share. I didn't realize it was that serious, Noah whispered, almost to himself. You didn't know because you didn't want to know, I cut in coldly. You were afraid that if you knew, you'd have to take my side, and that would mean going against your mother, your sister, the ones who have always controlled your life. So you chose to look away. And I took the hit. The elevator doors opened. I stepped out into the quiet mezzanine hallway where tall mirrors reflected the image of two people falling apart. Noah followed behind, his hands trembling as if trying to hold on to something slipping away. Zoe, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. If I had known, if I had listened to you sooner. Then what? I turned and looked him straight in the eyes. You would have stood up to your mom for me, said no to Olivia, believed me instead of their sugar-coated lies. He didn't answer. His silence was the clearest answer I'd ever gotten. I loved you, Noah. I used to love you so much it blinded me. But today, I choose to love myself more. He reached out, trying to touch me. I stepped back. Don't turn your guilt into a reason to pull me back. I'm no longer the woman you could leave behind in silence. I've learned how to live without your family's approval. And more importantly, without you. I turned and walked toward the stairs. The sound of my heels echoed with each step on the stone floor. Behind me, Noah stood still, his shadow stretched long and silent, like a man on trial with no right to defend himself. I didn't look back. In the days that followed, news of the wedding canceled mid-ceremony spread quickly through San Diego's social circles. Olivia vanished from social media for nearly 2 months. She was dropped from close friend groups, completely rejected by the groom's family. All her plans for social climbing crumbled into dust. Margaret had her luxury condo in Bellevue repossessed by the bank. She was forced to sell the BMW, move into a smaller rental apartment, and leave the upscale neighborhood she once called the elite zone. And Noah? He called me twice. On the third time, I blocked his number. I had lived long enough in silence. Now was the time to live in my own voice. And I chose not to hear again the things I once begged to say. 1 year later, I sat on the balcony of my third-floor apartment, facing the endless Pacific Ocean, where the waves crashed gently against the white rocks. The early morning sun spilled across the sea, turning golden in the coffee cup I held. The air was filled with sea salt and cool breeze, and my heart felt weightless. I never thought I'd live in Santa Barbara, a place once too luxurious for a nurse's salary. But now I had a small apartment of my own, just a few minutes' walk from the beach, with a cozy workspace, some green plants, and a life free from insults, control, or judgmental stares. I had rebuilt my life from the ashes. After Olivia's ruined wedding, I filed for divorce from Noah within 2 weeks. No disputes, no dragging it out. He didn't dare face it, and I had nothing left to hold on to. I left everything behind, except justice. I hired a private attorney, worked in silence. With the evidence I had collected, Margaret was forced to return the money she had taken from Noah's account, under the agreement of private settlement to avoid criminal charges. Most of that money I used to start over. I moved back to Southern California and got a job at a community clinic where people knew my name, respected my skills, and didn't see me as someone who married out of her league. There, no one asked why I got divorced. No one knew I used to be Olivia Evans' sister-in-law. They only knew me as Zoe, the dedicated nurse who brings pastries every Friday morning, the one who's always willing to cover night shifts if someone's kid has a fever. And that was enough. As for the Evans family, I didn't bother to find out, but the news still found its way to me. Like truth that never stays buried. Margaret had her Bellevue condo seized by the bank due to missed payments. After the chaos at the wedding, she lost many of her business connections. People whispered that she once used her son's name for financial fraud. No one wanted to associate with a selfish, scandalous mother-in-law like that. Eventually, she moved to a rented apartment in the Inland Empire suburbs, far from the wine parties, far from the borrowed glamour she once clung to through her son. And Olivia? From a social media princess with nearly 40,000 followers, she disappeared into silence. Some rumors said she tried to become an online relationship coach, but was exposed for having no qualification. Her former circles gradually turned their backs on her. People stopped greeting her at events. She became a cautionary tale among the elite. Don't fall for the surface, like that Evans wedding. An old friend sent me a link to a blog post about a woman who nearly married a young millionaire, now working retail at a fitness studio. I didn't open it. I didn't need to know how Olivia was doing. And Noah? I heard he changed companies, that he got a new number, left social media, and kept to himself more. Some said he started seeing a therapist. But to me, all of it is just background noise, like a weather forecast in another state. I don't hate him, but I don't love him anymore either. I feel sorry for the version of myself who once loved him so much she sacrificed her self-worth just to be accepted. But I don't regret the marriage. Because without it, I would never have learned how to stand on my own, never discovered the strength I once underestimated. That morning, after finishing my coffee, I went for a walk on the beach. My bare feet sank gently into the sand, the cool waves lapping at my ankles. I took a deep breath, letting the breeze run through my hair. No one here knew I was once labeled housekeeper at my sister-in-law's wedding. No one looked at me with scrutiny or pity. I was Zoe, the woman who walked through hell and chose not to carry the ashes with her. A child ran past, laughing gleefully. His mother chased after him, holding a pair of sandals in her hand, calling out, "Liam, watch your step or you'll fall." I smiled at them. A simple, everyday moment, but filled with the peace I had never known in the forced life I used to live. I sat down on a flat rock, watching the seagulls soar into the distance. In my jacket pocket was a piece of paper, an interview invitation for the position of regional medical coordinator at a new clinic. An important step forward. I hadn't decided yet. But for the first time in my life, I felt I had the right to choose. Not for anyone else, not to be loved, but simply because I wanted to. I took out my phone, opened the Notes app, and typed, "Today I am no longer someone forgotten, dismissed, or waiting to be saved. I am Zoe. I have endured, I have fallen, but I've stood back up. And I choose to move forward. For myself." I saved it, tucked my phone back in my pocket, then stood up and kept walking. The wind picked up, but I wasn't cold. Because I carried freedom in my heart, and that no one could ever take away. Zoe's story is a testament to the awakening and inner strength of a woman who was once overlooked, trampled on, and forgotten in her own life. From silent endurance to standing up for herself, she not only exposed the lies around her, but also reclaimed her freedom and true peace. In real life, sometimes to begin again, we must dare to let go of what once felt impossible to leave behind. And Zoe proved the greatest freedom is to live true to yourself. What do you think of Zoe's journey? What would you do if you were in her shoes? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to follow the channel so you won't miss more emotional stories and real-life lessons about family and resilience.